Welcome to Player Profiler today, Friday, with your host, Brendon Booth. I am your host, Brendon Booth. Today, we're going to go over the continuing injuryocalypse. We're going to preview some Week 5 games. We'll talk about the Falcons' win against the Buccaneers last night and our top story with deep insights from a Raiders fan on the Davante Adams situation. He wants out of Las Vegas. I'll talk about why. What was the genesis of all that happening, and we'll speculate on where he'll land. And before we get started, like the show, share it around, leave some comments, follow me on Twitter. Shout out to Jamie. I'm sure you're watching already. Follow Player Profiler News on Twitter at profiler_NFL. Find our archive at playerprofiler.com/news. And I keep saying we, right? With me today, this week, is my guest from the news desk. He's a fellow news desk writer. And let's just say that over the course of the last year or so, since I got to the news desk, we've had a couple of people that would be considered all-stars by the Player Profiler staff. And you can really tell when somebody like really digs in and they're passionate about what they're doing and just takes on all the work that they can. It's how I got noticed. It's how Mike Lindbergh got noticed. It's how Jeremy Retzlaff got noticed. It's how Johnny Tuma got noticed. And this dude, like, he came along in the second wave or third or fourth wave. And it's Chev, everybody. Chev, aka Justin Currie, co-host of Two Guys One Pod. What's going on, man?
Oh man, just glad to be here. Yeah, this is it's extremely fun to me. Thank you for all the kind and I guess semi-true words. I
Oh,
won't
you're killing it.
I don't do well with compliments, so that was a little weird for me, but thank you. And I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. Right on. Okay. Let me hit the intro and producer. There's no producer. It's just me. I hit the button. All right. Let's talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons game last night. It was a Thursday night game, so of course it was just going to be a garbage crap game. Did you happen to watch it, or do you just don't care
Oh,
about Thursday night football?
yes. I watched as a man with several Rashad White bags packed. I was watching very intently as he slowly hands over the job to Bucky Irving. Love that for myself. But it was a great game. It's a great game.
And then he didn't even do that.
Right.
He had a standard Rashad White game. In our Thursday night tailgate over on the Player Profiler main channel, we were calling out some starts and sits and stuff, and I said start Rashad White, so I felt pretty good about that. And then other channels, like I've been like hyping the Darnell Mooney train for a while, and he had a pretty good game last night. And the game got exciting, and somehow Kirk Cousins came out of the woodwork and threw 509 yards and 4 touchdowns. And Young
We got
Ku kicked a field goal in overtime, and the Falcons won that game in a
I
division battle in the NFC South.
I so this is the thing with Kirk Cousins. Like going back to 2022, I want to say he's played the most one possession games that I can ever like. It's always a one possession game. It's either they're getting the doors blown off or he's playing a one possession game and winning that game. They've won an inordinate amount of one possession games like in the last like 2 or 3 years. I think the
Yeah,
playoff year they had like 9 1-score games. So the two narratives that we have to kind of like marry up are like Kirk Cousins is terrible on primetime and Kirk Cousins is always going to be in a one possession game. So
right.
I think both of those came true last night, and we got like a legendary Kirk Cousins, Kirk O'Chain's performance.
Now let me ask you this: last year there was a whole lot of chatter about Arthur Smith and him driving the Atlanta Falcons. See, I say Falcons because I'm used to Mike Lindbergh being from Canada saying
Yeah,
Falcons, and it always makes me laugh because it sounds like he's saying Millennium Falcon.
that's what I
Um,
thought. That's immediately what I thought about.
yeah, and so now because I make fun of him for it all the time, I'm starting to say
Started to say
Falcons.
Falcons now.
Yeah. So the Atlanta Falcons, Arthur Smith ran them into the ground last year. Um, I'm going to give myself another pat on the back and say that I called Bijan Robinson not being a top 5 running back this year. Um, the impetus for that was I looked at what Zach Robinson has done, and he doesn't throw the ball to running backs as much as Bijan needs to
Yes.
elevate his numbers from last year into the top 5 this year. And
Yes.
I didn't see that coming. Like, I didn't see that happening. I saw him having a decrease in those receptions. And so I was like, he's not in my top 5 this year. And I got a whole lot of blowback for that.
Oh,
But
of course.
so here's the question. Was it Arthur Smith or is it Bijan?
I would take a slight detour and I would say it's Tyler Algier.
Okay.
Tyler Algier is just, I mean, he's good, and
Yeah.
they told you he was going to be a part of the plan. So, like, being shocked, it's like, oh, they told us what they were going to do, and they did it, and we're surprised.
Right.
Like,
Well, I will say that I'm not upset about my Bijan Robinson shares not being as valuable as they should be, because I was already upset with my Tyler Algier shares getting torpedoed by the Bijan Robinson draft pick. So I've been
absolutely.
through that already. And all right, all right. Let's
Hey,
get
this
to
is a safe place. Let it all out. Let it all
oh,
out.
I do. Let's get to some injury news. The headlines of the injury news are gonna be Malik Neighbors is out, Jonathan Taylor is out, but don't worry, reinforcements are coming. We've got Kendre Miller of the Saints. He's practicing. And we've
Yeah.
got Nick Chubb, and he's practicing. And we've got Evan Ingram, and he's back. So let me I told we see I went to college in Arkansas, and Chev lives in Arkansas, and so I started asking him about living in Arkansas, and I
Yep.
forgot to call up the screen that I needed to call up. So let me do that right now. And it is
So,
the go ahead.
so how interested would you be if, like, Nick Chubb, let's say next week he comes back, they open the window next week. I obviously don't think he's going to play this Sunday, but next week he comes back and he gets like 11 touches immediately.
I'm interested. In redraft. I think that I I would be okay with that. I I like Jerome Ford, but I think Nick Chubb is just a little bit more productive in Dynasty. If I have Nick Chubb, I'm trying to trade him for Kendry Miller. All right.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, let's start with our London game. We got the 4-0 Minnesota Vikings going up against the New York Jets. So far, Morgan Moses still out for the Jets. Leaky Fotu and CJ Mosley are doubtful. And of course, out still is TJ Hawkinson. Standard game. It's going to be a London game. It's going to be weird. It's going to be 6:30 in the morning here. 6:30 a.m. to 8:15 all day.
Yeah,
All day.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love it.
Just 12 straight hours. Like, you're your own personal red zone for
Yes.
for whenever there's a London game.
Yeah, and I got my little 3-screen command center and the TV, and I'm good to go. All right.
I have to warn my wife when there's a London game, because it's like, there's football already. I don't get you for anything today, and it's like, do you want me to tell you the truth, or do you want me to tell you something that's gonna make you feel better?
Every year, I on Twitter I shout out to all the football widows, um, and because I have one, and Sunday I'm taking her to the airport. Uh, But luckily, she needs to go to the airport right between the London game ending and the 10 o'clock slate starting. So I get that little window. And fun fact, the woman that checks in she's my partner when she goes to the airport. She travels for work, and every time she goes, she gets checked in at the desk by this one lady who is Latu's grandmother.
No way.
Absolutely, it's awesome. And I got to meet her when I went out to the Fantasy Football Expo. All right, but enough about me. Let's move on to the next matchup. We got the Bears and the Panthers. No real DeAndre Carter is questionable. That all that does affect the Bears' return game. Maybe we'll see a little bit more of what's his name?
Velus Jones.
Velus Jones, yeah. The 43-year-old rookie. For the Panthers, Josie Jewell is out. Shaq Thompson, who's from here, and I have a story about him too. He is out with an Achilles. Andrew Rame. Questionables: Jalen Coker, Robert Hunt, Shai Tuttle, Charles Harris, Ian Thomas, Dane Jackson. So not really many injuries affecting that game. We've got the Ravens and the Bengals. 2-2 Baltimore traveling to 1-3 Cincinnati. For the Ravens, Rasheen Ali is questionable, so there's a chance that Rasheen Ali might be able to get back.
Oh,
and then for the Bengals, we've got Sheldon Rankins doubtful, but that's not much. There's not much there. Divisional matchup: Baltimore on the road. They have 2 losses. The Bengals have looked pretty trash. What's your read on this game? You think Baltimore can handle it? Derrick Henry is my RB1 this week.
I totally agree with that. So the Bengals avoided fully going Septingle and just going 0 for 4, just full Septingle. Joe Burrow righted the ship a little bit, and I think that they're going to be able to score some points. I mean, the way that you attack the Ravens defense is through the air. So, right. And I mean, Joe Burrow is one of the best to do it as far as like a pure passer of the football. And you got T. Higgins and Jamar Chase in full swing. I don't know what's happening with the tight ends. Maybe. I mean, does he catch a touchdown?
That's a good question. I mean, they run him out of the slot, and he's a big body dude. He should be getting a whole lot of red zone looks. I like him. He just needs to get incorporated into the offense, and there's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense. So
yeah, So I was talking with my co-host on our show the other day, and I said, man, obviously I love Derrick Henry this week. The Bengals are probably next to Carolina as far as poorest run defenses. So there's a very real world where Baltimore has the ball for about 39 minutes. And Derrick Henry just absolutely smashes them. But in that 21 minutes the Bengals had the ball, they're going to throw it 35 times.
And I do want to establish, I'll throw out a caveat. The Bengals and the Panthers being terrible at run defense doesn't mean they can't stop the Raiders. Okay, this game, this next game is another. It's a conference battle, but it's 2 teams they're looking pretty good. The Buffalo Bills are 3-1. They're traveling to Houston, who is also 3-1. Maybe a preview for the AFC playoffs. I won't go so far as say AFC Championship, but because
you got that would mean you have to take out that one guy that's got 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah, the NFL make sure that the Chiefs are there. But there are some pretty major injuries for both of these teams. Khalil Shakir, who has been the Bills' leading wide receiver, he is out. And then Terrell Bernard and Teron Johnson, who are fantastic on defense. They've missed the last couple weeks with injuries. They're questionable and looks like they will play, so that's a big boost to the Bills' defense. And it's kind of good to be 3-1, even though you're missing 2 of your defensive captains. And then on the Texans side, we've got Joe Mixon, who's been declared out. Jerry Hughes, which, I mean, he's good, and that sucks for the Texans. And then Derek Barnett, who is a big piece brought over from, I think, Carolina, and he's a big body. They are out. Dameon Pierce is questionable. He probably could return. Robert Woods is he's kind of an afterthought at this point. No Mixon. Are we going Alec Pierce, Dario Ogunbowale, and Dameon Pierce? Are we looking at a committee, or is Cam Akers just going to run away with it?
He hadn't run away with it so far, and that's the most concerning part. But if there were a matchup to do it, this would be the one, right?
Yeah, I guess.
I say that, and it's there's supposed to be a question mark that floats past my words as we're going through. So, he got 13 carries last week. It was somewhat efficient. Dario Ogunbowale got the game winning touchdown that saved his week the previous week when they got blown out by the Vikings. So I with the buys, I could see a world where you play Cam Akers as a flex, but I mean, you're not like you don't love it.
Right. I mean, there's some we got some RB substitutions out there in fantasy land, like Jeremy McNichols possibly starting for the Commanders, Kareem Hunt in Kansas City, Cam Akers. Like it's the the running back landscape is pretty decimated at this point. We'll get to it, but Zamir White is out already for the Raiders. All right, next game is Indianapolis Colts 2-2 at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Another interdivisional game or
Conference.
interdivisional game, because they're both in the AFC South. So
Yep. Sworn enemies of my Tennessee Titans. Yep, that is true.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor, Kwity Paye out, Kenny Moore out. That's two key pieces on defense for the Colts plus Jonathan Taylor. Anthony Richardson is dealing with an oblique injury and he's questionable, but they haven't really done much to pump things up. They were 1-2 with him. They're 1-0 with Flacco. So do we see Anthony Richardson in this game? Do we feel like he can play? He's not doubtful. He's questionable, and he is their starter. I feel like if I'm Shane Steichen, I'm just going with Flacco.
You're just going to ask me the tough questions, huh?
I'm asking you all of them.
So, for me, this matchup in particular, for this week, I would much rather see Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
100%.
Same. Let Anthony Richardson. So, okay, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's flying around out there about how through 5 games in his career, through 6 games in his career, Anthony Richardson is exactly Josh Allen. Statistically.
Oh.
But he can't stay on the field. And I feel like, it's the perfect time, especially with Joe Flacco in the building. You just give Anthony Richardson some leash. Wrap him in bubble wrap. Make sure he's 100% before he comes back, and go out there and beat an 0-4 team. I feel like the Jaguars are still the only team without a win in the NFL.
Listen, I will write a doctor's note just for Shane Steichen, just so I can get Anthony Richardson off the field this week. The Jags play man coverage at an alarming rate, and they have terrible players to do it. But if Anthony Richardson is in, I don't feel comfortable starting any Colts wide receiver against this team, man.
Yeah, I had Alec Pierce as a big start this week, and then because I thought that Anthony Richardson was going to be out, and then as soon as I heard today that there's a good possibility he'll play, I was like, remember that show we did last night where I said Alec Pierce was a start? Let's just not post that one. All right, for the Jaguars, nobody's out. However, Evan Ingram is on his way back. Josh Hines-Allen is on his way back. Yasir Abdullah. Devin Lloyd could play. Darnell Savage and safety Daniel Thomas. They're all questionable. Our co-host on a bunch of shows, Schultze, is a huge Jaguars fan. And because of that and all the preseason steam that we were all giving the Jaguars, we're heavily invested, out over our skis in Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, and Evan Ingram. I know to a certain extent, Brian Thomas Jr. And so it's been devastating these first 4 weeks to be dealing with Evan Ingram doing nothing. Because we counted on him, but he's ostensibly back. And with that, there's been some talk that the Jaguars haven't been good because Evan Ingram is the missing piece in that offense. With him coming back, could we see the Jaguars hitting 1-4?
So I'm glad you brought that up, because the Colts are notoriously bad in Jacksonville, and they have been for years.
13 in a row they've lost or something.
Yes, and that win, it's burned into my brain. The Colts in season Hard Knocks from a few years ago, where there was a win and end game with Carson Wentz, and they just absolutely just took a dump right in their bed and missed the playoffs. And
heavily favored. Yeah,
heavily favored, and that was they had clowns in the stands and all that stuff. It was an absolute embarrassment. So that's burned into my brain. If I was in a survivor pool, I would take a real hard look at taking the Jags this week at 0-4, even though
nobody else is doing it.
Yeah, because nobody else is doing it, and like I really think this is a game where the Jags are gonna win. Either that or Doug Peterson doesn't have a job come Monday.
Sure, yeah. I'm surprised he still has a job. Teams don't go 0-16 or 0-17, folks, so they're going to win at some point.
They have too much talent to loot, like too much talent to just continue to just flounder in whatever they've been doing thus far.
Well, I mean, they've been dealing with a lot of injuries, and the Colts are trash, you guys. All right, I don't mean any disrespect to Colts fans.
I'm Titans fan. I'm perfectly okay with you trashing the Colts as much as humanly possible.
Sure. All right. In Pillow Fight A, we've got the Miami Dolphins at the New England Patriots. For the Dolphins, Jordan Poyer is out. Obviously, Tua Tagovailoa is out. Skylar Thompson is questionable, but Tyler Huntley is going to start. And do you really want to give Skylar Thompson the keys anyway? Odell Beckham is still alive and questionable. Cam Smith is questionable with a hamstring. Odell Beckham. It's not like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are lighting the world on fire. Do you really think Odell Beckham is going to do that?
I mean, I would start him in a 32-man 18 start 18 league. That's where I would start Odell Beckham at.
Funny you say that because I'm in a 32-team league.
Are you serious?
Tua was my quarterback. And so as soon as he went down with his concussion, I made a trade, my 25 first round pick for Andy Dalton and Skylar Thompson, because some dude had them both and they were expendable to him. So I get him. And of course, first week, I think, oh, Skylar Thompson, he's got Tyreek Hill to throw to, put him in.
Yep. Just water gun, noodle arm, can't get it there.
left Andy Dalton against the Raiders on my bench. And still won. So that worked out. All right. Nice. For the Patriots, Sione Takitaki. I grew up with a kid whose name was Taki. So if he was Sione Takitaki's dad, his name would be Taki. All right. Sione Takitaki is doubtful. Kendrick Bourne is questionable. KJ Osborne is questionable. Whether they or not they have a quarterback that can get the ball to them is also questionable. Badarian Lowe, offensive tackle. Mike Jordan, offensive guard. Layden Robinson, offensive guard. Nick Leverett, center. Good Lord, that offensive line is just decimated. Anthony Jennings, Jonathan Jones, Marcus Jones, Kyle Duggar, Marte Mapu, and Jabril Peppers, all questionable.
For a unit that wasn't very good to begin with, that Patriots unit, like offensive line unit, is just. But I mean, fortunately, the Dolphins don't really have. I mean, Jalen Phillips is out for the season now, so I mean, he was their best pass rusher. Chubb's still not back, right?
Yeah,
right. So I don't really. I mean, they don't really have any threats as pass rushers. Like secretly, I feel like they might be able to stumble into more than like 36 total points somehow. Don't quote me on how.
Maybe. One note: Ramondre Stevenson is no longer listed on the as an injury designation.
Okay.
So yeah, that's that's.
How confident are you in Ramondre this week against that Dolphins run defense?
I feel like he's going to do Ramondre things. He's not going to be an elite, like top 12 running back, but I feel like if the Patriots can find some room for him to go, they'll be okay. I don't know. This game makes me think it's a punter's world. We're just living in it.
That's true. Yeah.
All right, Cleveland Browns 1-3 at Washington Commanders. A surprising 3-1 because Jaden Daniels is lighting the absolute world on fire. We know that Nick Chubb is out, Nehemiah Mines is out, Jordan Hicks is out, Pierre Strong is questionable, David Njoku is likely coming back, Jedrick Wills is questionable, Jack Conklin is questionable. They really need those two guys to get Jerome Ford going and loosen up the passing game so that Deshaun Watson can get the ball to Amari Cooper. None of those things have been happening. As far as the Commandos, Fourth, the 104 faceplant of all time, Cleveland Ferrell, is out with a knee injury. Noah Brown, wide receiver, is out with a groin injury. FAO Bada and Jordan McGee are doubtful for the Commanders. Marcus Mariota is questionable as his career. Brian Robinson is questionable. He's a game time decision apparently. So hold on to your Jeremy McNichols waiver pickup, and he's an easy drop if Brian Robinson actually plays. So keep an eye out for that game. Jaden going up against the Browns defense. The Browns defense weren't awful against the Raiders. Not that the Raiders are good, especially without Davante Adams and with Gardner Minshew at quarterback, but they still won that game 20-16. I feel like this is Commanders are going to blow out the Browns.
See, I for some reason, I'm not ready to drink the Commanders Kool-Aid. I feel like they're going to pull, like Cliff Kingsbury is going to pull the rug from under us sooner than later. And it might not be, I mean, I think the Browns, I don't think they're very good, but I also think that this Washington defense is equally bad, and Deshaun might be able to turn some magic back. I mean, everybody's throwing out the stat like they've given up, I want to say 36 performances of 75 yards or a touchdown to wide receivers in the last 21 games. That's popularly getting thrown out there right now. On my show, I said Amari Cooper was my start of the week for that very reason. So I could see a world where, Washington does Washington things, but the problem is, like, you have Cleveland and they do Cleveland things.
Right.
So I don't like, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but I really, really think that that definitely, possibly, maybe the Cleveland Browns find a way to win this game.
Well, another thing that I want to throw out there, I made a joke earlier about the Raiders being bad in the run game. They had 157 yards rushing against the Browns. The Browns were supposed to be a good rushing defense.
Right, yeah.
And the Raiders, who are garbage, put up 157 yards on the ground against them.
Yeah, they established it, and that is probably why the Browns lost the game. So now I feel less confident in everything I just said 45 seconds ago. Give me.
Glad I'm here to help. All right, moving on to Pillow Fight B, or Pillow Fight number 2. We've got the Las Vegas Raiders traveling to Mile High and Power Field at Mile High in Denver. Both teams 2-2, tied for second place in the AFC West. For the Raiders, Zamir White is out with a groin injury. That was just announced today. Davante Adams out with a hamstring. We've known that for a while. We'll talk about Davante Adams in our top story. Michael Mayer, it's a personal issue. He's out again. That's the second week in a row. It's not often you see personal issues last that long. Thayer Munford, right tackle, is out. Luke Masterson, backup linebacker, is out. DeCameron Richardson, rookie cornerback, hasn't gotten in yet this year. And Trey Taylor, rookie safety, is out as well. Tyreek McAllister, who's Canadian Football League, UFL, like he's been great in the return game, and he actually had an end around last week that looked pretty good, but he is questionable with a shoulder injury. Donald Parham is questionable with an Achilles. He's the guy that the Raiders want out there if Thayer Munford can't go, and he's dealing with an injury too. Max Crosby is dealing with an ankle. He missed last week, but he is 100% confident that he's going to play this week, whether anybody likes it or not. Divine Diablo is still struggling with a knee injury, and Kanai Muaga is also struggling with a knee injury. Now, this is like the ultimate pick'em game of the year. We've got Bo Nix, who's not played very well. He had 60 yards passing against the Jets last week. And that 60 yards all went to Cortland Sutton. Everybody else had negative yards combined, 9 other receivers. And then Gardner Minshew, who is certainly not the answer and trying to do his best to play bridge. And he's missing Davante Adams, which has been his number one target. Of course, they've got Brock Bowers going out there. Jacoby Myers is a good slot receiver, but he moves over to the X when Davante's out. Trey Tucker trying to take the top off the defense.
There it is. There it is.
But the Broncos are like
A
they've
really
allowed
good
the
defense.
the
Yeah.
fewest amount of passing yards in the NFL this year. So, and then on the other hand, you have the Raiders who have played really well in the pass game. They've given up a bunch of yards to running backs, and Jaleel McLaughlin and Javonte Williams looked kind of like they were back on track last week. So I feel like this is the Vegas total is like 37.5 or something like that. I feel
Right.
like this is a candidate for the under. Um, it could
I could
be
totally see this going 13-9.
yeah, Denver controlling the ball most of the game in the run game, and then the Raiders coming back to win it late with some prevent defense on the Broncos side. It's
So what it sounds like
it's a
to
toss
me
up.
is that the Broncos DST is a strong play this week.
Both of them are. I'm like I don't have many Denver shares, but if I
Listen,
do, I'm playing them.
I have an anti-Bo Nix agenda, and it's thriving right now.
that's, yeah, that's your defensive streaming is who's playing Bo Nix. And it started with the Seahawks and then I think the Titans. Didn't the Titans did they play them
So
week 2?
we played the Jets week 2.
Week 2. Okay. No,
Yeah.
then no, I'm totally wrong. And moving on. So yeah, it's like totally like who and nobody cares anyway. It's like it's
No,
two teams that are absolutely not on anybody's radar. For the
going
Broncos, the
nowhere
only
fast.
what's that?
I said they're going nowhere fast.
Correct. And for the Broncos, Tyler Bidet, weirdest pronunciation of that name. And apparently his real name is actually Beatty, and he wants people to call him Bidet.
Yeah, he is an alum of my high school, and
Oh wow.
I found that out, the whole Beatty Bidet thing, and I have been reluctant to share that with anybody else since.
That's that's fantastic. All right. All right. Cardinals 49ers, nobody really no real injury designations on the Cardinals. Trey McBride is back.
Yes.
49ers, of course, we know about Christian McCaffrey. Jacob Cowing is dealing with a shoulder injury. George Kittle has a rib injury but is likely to play. Fred Warner has an ankle and is likely to play. And Isaac Yiadom, their big free agent signing from New Orleans, who San Francisco fans really hate, is questionable with a thigh. San Francisco 49ers are 2-2. Everybody's got them. The Cardinals are feisty. They're only 1-3, but it feels like the Cardinals are every year. They're that one team that nobody wants to play because they can just kind of upset the apple cart like they did to Dallas last year. They have a few of those games in them. The Rams were like trying to get into the playoffs last year, and Arizona went in and smacked them around. This
Yep.
this is one of those like we could see a third unforeseen 49ers loss. It happened in Minnesota. It happened again with the Rams. It could happen again with the Cardinals, where everybody's on the Niners train and boop. Uh,
Well, this is a weird one because Arizona's defense has shown to be so porous. I think that the 49ers are going to be able to do what they want to do. However, I would say I think that the Cardinals are going to have a lot more offensive success. Like whatever they did last week like against the Commanders, I'm gonna pretend I'm gonna take some unseen juice. I'm gonna put it in both my eyes and I'll pretend like it never happened. And I think they're gonna score in between 24 and 31 points this week. I really like the Cardinals offense, but the Cardinals defense is so bad that they're probably not going to win this game. But they have a chance to cover and score a bunch of points.
so I think the most unheralded offensive coordinator in the NFL is Drew Petzing
Yes.
from the Cardinals. And I
Yes.
came to that conclusion during that Cowboys game last year when there's no reason that Arizona should have been on the same field as the Cowboys. And they went in and the game plan that Drew Petzing schemed, which was basically like attacking Micah Parsons and completely nullifying him, was brilliant, and you could see it from the first play of the game. They scored a touchdown on a passing play, and they went right after Parsons, and then they just took control the rest of the way there. And
Yes.
I watched that game, and I was like, there aren't many games where you see offensive players being successful and you don't attribute it to their talent.
Right.
And I watched this game, and instead of like saying this is these Cardinals players being good, I was like, I can see that this is all in the game planning. And
Yeah. It
so
like that kind of revealed a flaw in the Cowboys, because at that point we were viewing them as a defensive juggernaut.
yeah,
It revealed a flaw that bore itself out over the back half of the season with the Bills and the Packers and the way that they attacked them. So yeah, Drew Petzing has been he's been excellent as an offensive coordinator, and like we've got all our Kyler Murray bags packed because of the fact that like you've got an elite option, fantasy option that's executing this offense. Like I said, I'm gonna wash away whatever happened last week with them against Washington, but I think that they'll like everybody should get home, including my guy Trey McBride this week.
yeah. And I mean, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., you got the human Dortch. James Conner is like just fine plotting with the ball, and Trey Benson in case something happens. The Cardinals aren't terrible on offense, and you talk about defensive juggernauts. Who was the fantasy ADP one for defensive special teams this year? It was
Yep.
the 49ers.
Yep.
Everybody
Yep.
expect the 49ers to like be the defensive juggernaut this year. So if anybody can scheme and take them out, I think Drew Petzing is more than capable.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, we got the Packers and the Rams. For the Packers, Romeo Dubs is doubtful. Christian Watson is doubtful. I don't know why he's not out already. And then Luke Musgrave is questionable, but I think Tucker Kraft stole that job anyway.
Yeah,
Then
his abilities are questionable.
yeah. Then a bunch of defensive injuries. Jonathan Ford, Edgerrin Cooper, who I'm still waiting to see like be the best linebacker out of this rookie class. Jair Alexander. Mm-hmm. He's gonna play, and then Carrington Valentine for the Rams. The only outs are Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and then Laurel Murchison. Nobody questionable at this point. Jordan,
because they're all on IR.
What's that?
I said because they're all on IR.
Yes. Yeah. So this week I've had Kyron Williams as a sit, and on the other hand, Matt Kelly's favorite start of the week, besides Rachaad White, is Whittington.
Yeah.
So are the Rams going to be able to do anything against the Packers, or Jordan Love is back and the Packers are going to packer?
I like the Packers to score a ton of points in this game. There's just, I mean, the Rams have been an absolute sieve. Me and my co-host Joe is like sieve. But yeah, they've been an absolute sieve against the run and the pass. Like you can do whatever you want. I mean, they made DeAndre Swift look like the reincarnation of Walter Payton last week. So I think this is going to be a big game. Just the Packers touchdown rate in the red zone pass wise has been way over expectation. Josh Jacobs I don't think he has a touchdown this year. Does he?
He does not.
Yeah, he does not. So if there was a game for him to get right, this would be it. But I also don't think the Packers are anything to really be afraid of with a guy like Sean McVay. We're just talking about how good Drew Petzing is. We know how good Sean McVay is as a play caller. So I feel like he's going to figure out a way to get Jordan Whittington open, get Tutu Atwell open. Obviously, Kyron's going to handle 90% of the opportunities in the backfield and probably get between 20 and 25 opportunities and fall into the end zone somehow. I think this game is going to provide us with a lot of fantasy goodness where you could probably see a world where Jordan Whittington's a top 20 wide receiver when it's all said and done, and Tutu's going to get 4 for 80 or whatever it is. That's just kind of what he does between 12 and 16 PPR points. It's usable, so I can't make fun of it, right?
Demarcus Robinson.
He's going to be out there he's 2024 Alec Pierce. He's just running, hey, I'm just out here for cardio. All right. My check, cardio, double C's.
Gabe Davis, Alec Pierce.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
And let's bring it down for a second. Malik Neighbors is out.
you know, you know,
Setting the world on fire. Malik Neighbors out with a concussion. He's not going to play. Devin Singletary is unlikely to play. He's listed as doubtful. Go grab Tyrone Tracy if he's available, because if he gets on the field, he's a former converted wide receiver, and
he's
he's
your wide
going to
receiver.
be.
Yep.
He's
He's way
this.
more physical than you think he's going to be for a converted wide receiver
He's
too.
big.
Yeah.
and there aren't many teams better against slot receivers than the Seahawks, which means that it's not going to be, well, Malik's out, so Wan'Dale Robinson is going to have a huge week. He's going to be locked down, so it's going to be the Tyrone Tracy show, because that's the only person that Daniel Jones is going to be able to throw to. So I feel like we're going to have 15 rushes from Daniel Jones, and then like 12 dump offs to Tyrone Tracy.
And that is if he doesn't turn the ball over a ton. I've been waiting for him to turn back into a pumpkin all season long.
Oh, he's top 5 quarterback. That's not going to happen.
Top 5 turnover.
For the Seahawks, Byron Murphy is out. Cameron Young is out. Boye Mafe is questionable. And Julian Love, who is a pretty integral part of that defense, is out, or is questionable. But that's not a lot. I feel like the Neighbors missing is the most devastating blow in that whole game. And the Seahawks are just they're gonna cruise.
Yeah. I mean, they're 6.5 point favorites. I made Kenneth Walker my start of the week for that very reason. I just, you pass the lead, run to win, and I think that's exactly where this game is headed. I mean, he was awesome against the Broncos, who we thought were going to be bad against the run again, and he was awesome. That turns out that they're really good. Then he was awesome when he came back against Detroit, and they were quite literally the best on a per rush basis against the run. And he goes and puts up 35 fantasy points and adds. Now apparently he can catch too. So it's
So he came out of Michigan State, and the narrative around him was that he wasn't a pass catching back.
Right.
Similar thing happened with Zamir White. Zamir White is at Georgia, and he's there with James Cook. And they had a specific delineation of duties between those two guys, and they just didn't throw the ball to Zamir White. It 100%. Didn't mean that he couldn't catch the ball. It just meant that he didn't catch the ball. And that was the thing with Kenneth Walker. It wasn't necessarily that he wasn't going to be good in the receiving game. It's just that wasn't a task that he was assigned to at Michigan State.
I 100% agree. So he's from just outside of Memphis too. So I got to see a little bit of him, like some of his high school film. And it's like, oh, no. He could definitely catch the ball. His huddle, it's filled with him like running wheel routes and scoring from way out. And it's like, that doesn't just disappear.
Right.
Like when you improve as a player, like you're going to this is something that he can do. And Ryan Grubb immediately was like, no, this guy is going to be a 3-down back for us. And, we just kind of ignored it because it's like, it's tongue in cheek. Zach Charbonnet's going to be a 3rd-down guy. It's like, no, Kenneth Walker is awesome.
Yeah.
He is. Full stop.
So is Ryan Grubb.
Yeah.
All right. We have the Cowboys and the Steelers. This one is this is like, what do you call it? An unstoppable force meets an immovable object. You got the Steelers defense, which that's the only reason that they are 3-1. And then you've got the Cowboys, who have been a Jekyll and Hyde team. You have Micah Parsons and Brandon Cooks out for the Cowboys. Jalen Warren and Cordarrelle Patterson out for the Steelers, as well as Michael Pruitt and Alex Highsmith. Russell Wilson is a non-factor. And Trevon Diggs might play for the Cowboys. Handicap this one.
You said DeMarcus Lawrence isn't playing, correct? Is he playing?
He's not listed.
So I thought he had a Liz Frank injury, and he left that game against the Giants, and I thought it was more serious, and apparently it is.
He might have been placed on the IR, which is why he's not on this list.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Okay. So yeah, best run defender in DeMarcus Lawrence is out. Then Micah Parsons isn't going to play. Yeah.
And so then you're looking at Najee Harris game.
Are we?
And yeah, I mean, what else do they have? Justin Fields running the ball, and I'm not saying he's going to get any touchdowns. I'm taking the under on his touchdowns because Justin Fields is going to take them all. but I mean, it's the Steelers' offense is really limited to George Pickens and Justin Fields running the ball. A little bit of Najee thrown in, especially with Warren and Cordero out.
Yeah. We're gonna get 22 for 71.
What's that?
We're gonna get 22 for 71 from Najee. No touchdown.
Yes. Yeah. 20. God, that is the mark.
I know it sounds so bad. Yeah, I understand. It sounded horrible, and but that's where we're headed.
That's where we're headed. All right, and then finally we have the Saints traveling to Kansas City. Kansas City is 4-0, despite how bad they've looked, despite all their injuries. They're still somehow undefeated because that's just the way the Kansas City Chiefs roll. We don't have injury designations on that game yet because it is Monday night. So we will leave that. We're going to take a real quick commercial break. And, we've got a little theme going. So let's hear from our fearless leader, Matt Kelly. And if I can find if my producer can find the video.
We're going to get right on that.
Yeah. And where did it go? We've been playing it. There it is. And we'll be back on the other side with our top story.
Hey, you're in your fantasy draft and someone says, hey, that guy's injury prone. I don't want him. And you're like, I don't know. I don't think you can predict injuries. Well, guess what? Now you can. Injury proneness is real. At Player Profiler, we have the data on these players, and it's all in the Injury Finder app. Their injury track record back through time, exactly where they were injured, how severe it is. We look at the BMI data, and we crunch it all together, and we give you probabilities that a player will miss multiple games this NFL season, as well as the complete database of NFL injuries and the ability to compare two players and look at their injury track record. The Injury Finder is powerful, and it's only $5. If it's worth it to have that peace of mind when you're drafting, go get it.
Go get it. All right. The chat hasn't really been on fire or anything. But let's get to some viewer chat. We got Jeremiah Retzlaff, our partner in crime at the news desk. Go, Biggs. Thanks. And also, go Justin.
Hey, let's go.
Does George Pickens go off this week?
Now he knows I'm a true believer in George Pickens.
I am too, and
welcome home.
I don't know about go off, but he should, like, he's the passing game for Justin Fields.
Yes.
Fun fact about George Pickens: in my home league, I have a Steelers fan, and one year I had the first and third pick. Anyway, he had the second, and so I knew that if I took who I wanted with the 101, I wasn't going to get Pickens. So I took Pickens with the 101 and messed with the sleeper algorithm. And I made a trade to get that pick. We're in like the draft party, and I'm in the kitchen with the dude, and I make the trade with them, and I hook it up, and then I come around the corner as dude is over on the side, and he goes, "What the F?" And just he saw the trade and was just like beside himself, and then I went boop, and I hit George Pickens, and he was like, "No!" and I the only reason I did it was for the fun of it, just to cause havoc,
just to wait, yeah.
And then my next pick after that was the 103 or 4, and I took Treylon Burks, and I've been crying ever since. Until, and if you read my headline down there, the Raiders trade Davante Adams to the Tennessee Titans for Treylon Burks. Yes, please. All right.
Please.
We'll talk about that in a second. Scott Hudson, Gibson is getting the Atari.
Atari?
The start.
I know.
It was Antonio Gibson, Memphis connection. Antonio Gibson is going to be playing Atari throughout the game.
Yeah.
All right.
Sideline. That's how they're going to determine who starts. Is they've got an Atari. They're playing Pong. Whoever wins gets to start.
There you go. And this show is full of fun facts. Fun fact: I played Pong before Atari. I'm an old guy. All right, Troy Lewis. Lowell. Wait, Chev, you're famous? Yes, Troy, because this is the show that makes you famous. Um, all right. Can we talk about Sky Moore's viability as a flex option with both Hollywood and Rice on IR now? No.
Lou.
And I feel like Troy Lewis has some inside information. All right. Leggett or Whittington and PPR? I'm going Whittington. No. I
I'm
in my
going
brain,
Leggett.
in my brain, I conflated Leggett and Jonathan Mingo. I
Yeah.
had high hopes for Jonathan Mingo coming into the season, and Leggett has ripped them out of my
Yeah,
heart.
he's real good, and that touchdown celebration dedicated to his horse Dollar Bill moved him up in my rankings infinitely.
He's been the 101 as far as personalities, like since his first interview.
Yeah, it's
but-
him and Keon Coleman going back and forth, and now with with him actually scoring the touchdown and doing the celebration, he's the 101.
But I still have him over Whittington. All right. What about Mac Hollins? the barefoot home repairman.
Yeah.
And also, Chev, show us the cat painting behind you.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. There you go.
Hey, look, it's cats. All right.
So, all right. Now, I have to tell a story behind this.
Let's go.
So,
We call this segment is called Story Time with Chev.
My wife works in the veterinary industry, and she's made friends with quite a few veterinarians. And one of the veterinarians likes to take trips on spaceships and do paintings. And so these cats behind me never existed. They never owned these cats. They were just on a spaceship one night and decided to paint this and give it to my wife as a gift. So,
all right.
Yeah.
I feel like being on a spaceship is a euphemism for having fun with adult party favors.
Correct.
All right. All right. But if you're in Arkansas, you can't talk about that.
You're right.
Out here in California, what were they doing? Microdosing mushrooms? Were they like hitting were they hitting the edibles? Were they on the pen? Was it a Molly night? Like California's cool. All right. Not worried about the Bears secondary for Leggett? Of course, we've got to be worried about the Bears secondary for Leggett, but also teams have to throw the ball, and quarterbacks have to throw it, and wide receivers have to catch it, and that can happen even if they're getting shut down to a certain extent.
Well,
so
to answer that question even more, though, I think Deontay probably draws Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson confirmed awesome, but they're gonna scheme up looks for Xavier Leggett. Like this is a part of their game plan now. Like with Adam Thielen going to IR, and Leggett mentioned the chemistry that he and Dalton had working with the twos throughout camp.
yeah,
So this is something like this could be. I'm not gonna say it 1-for-1, but if like this passing volume continues, he could end up being like this year's Tank Dell with just the volume and the opportunity.
right. The other thing though is that if Jalen Johnson is on Deontay Johnson, it's a Johnson and Johnson. Deontay Johnson is an elite separator, so if he's the first read guy, he's still going to be getting the ball a bunch, but that still leaves Leggett open because they have to adjust. All right, who wins in a fight? 11 actual Bears or Xavier Leggett with a machete?
I don't like to discuss animal cruelty, Fish.
Yeah, fish. I also like fish. I say the taco, but only if it's prison rules. All right, and the Bears' offense has been anemic, so it could be a 3-0 game.
That absolutely will not happen with the way that the Bears are going to run the ball with Walter Payton 2.0.
Keenan Allen is back. If there, I mean, it could be kind of a shootout type script.
Yeah, I think. Right. I mean, it's a great game environment.
Caleb is going to have a game at some point, and with Keenan coming back, this could be it. And Roshan Johnson, baby. Let's do it. All right. It's time for our top story, and we're going to talk for a second about Davante Adams. Now, let me kind of break it down from the beginning. So, the Las Vegas Raiders traded for Davante Adams. Davante Adams having been Derek Carr's number one wide receiver and roommate at Fresno State. Davante wasn't happy with what was happening in Green Bay. He saw the writing on the wall and that Aaron Rodgers was going to be leaving, and he wanted to get out while he could. So he helped to orchestrate a trade to the Raiders so that he could play with his college friend Derek Carr once again. They did that. He comes over. He has a 1,500-yard season because everything between him and Derek Carr is fine. The thing is that football terrorist Josh McDaniels doesn't have a good relationship with Derek Carr because nobody on the team listened to Josh McDaniels. They listened to Derek Carr. Then Derek Carr goes out and he's told by Josh McDaniels, don't audible out of my play calls. And what does he do? Against the Seattle Seahawks in overtime, he sees the defense because Derek Carr is good at reading defenses. He knows football. And he audibles out of a pass play that Josh McDaniels called in, hands off to Josh Jacobs, who scampers 80 yards for a touchdown and the game winner. And Josh McDaniels gets mad and pulls Derek Carr aside and tears him a new one in front of the team. And then runs him out of town on a rail. He goes to New Orleans. Now, all of a sudden, the only reason that Davante Adams came to Las Vegas is gone. Well, Davante Adams is a professional, so he decides to swallow his pride, and he's going to give it his best shot. He goes out the next year, and he's got Jimmy Garoppolo throwing him hospital balls all over the field, deals with a terrible shoulder injury, terrible concussion, some of the worst injuries that Davante Adams has suffered in his career, and he's mad. Well, Josh McDaniels, he's out. Jimmy Garoppolo, he's benched. Aiden O'Connell, former star at Purdue, beater of Ohio State, beater
Great
of
guy.
Iowa.
Legendary great guy.
Legendary. Irish Catholic. Good, upstanding, 5 or 6 Irish brothers. Like Aiden O'Connell comes in and seemingly turns the Raiders season around along with head coach Antonio Pierce. They go on, they rattle off a bunch of wins. They miss the playoffs by a game. Aiden O'Connell is the only quarterback in the NFL in the last 4 weeks of the season to not have a turnover. In addition, he winds up being the number 2 quarterback in fantasy of the 2023 rookie class behind CJ Stroud. It wasn't Bryce Young. It wasn't anybody else. It was Aiden O'Connell. Fast forward, the Raiders grab Gardner Minshew in free agency, pay him $12-13 million to come in and be a bridge quarterback to, assuming a deal can be worked out for Jaden Daniels, who played for Antonio Pierce at Arizona State. Now all of a sudden, you can't get Daniels. Nobody will trade up. Nobody will make any deals. I said at the time, trade Davante Adams for a package that gives you enough to trade up and get Jaden Daniels. Didn't happen. Nobody wanted a deal. The year before, the Raiders had a deal in place by Dave Ziegler with Houston for their pick that went for CJ Stroud, and Josh McDaniels, noted football terrorist, said no to the deal. CJ Stroud should be the Raiders quarterback. Notwithstanding. So Davante Adams enters the preseason with a quarterback battle. Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell. He's already developed a good relationship with Aiden O'Connell. He and Aiden O'Connell were just fine together. And he advocated publicly on the receiver show and in private for Aiden O'Connell to win the job. Well, new offensive coordinator Luke Getsy and whatever Raiders brass was involved decided that Gardner Minshew offered more in his escapability in the pocket and his ability to move the ball down the field. What happened to the Raiders in 2023? Josh Jacobs was coming off leading the NFL in rushing yards, but defenses did not respect Jimmy Garoppolo. They stacked the box with 8 players. Josh Jacobs had nowhere to go. Aiden O'Connell comes in mid-season, and Jacobs goes out with an injury. Suddenly, Zamir White is getting 20 carries a game, averaging 4.5, 4.2, 4.6 yards per carry.
Yep.
Fast forward to 2024. NFL defenses do not respect Gardner Minshew. They stack the box. You got to beat us with your arm. Happens once with the Ravens. Winds up happening again with the Broncos. but Gardner Minshew is not the answer. Well, Davante Adams advocated for Aiden O'Connell. He
Yep.
wanted Aiden O'Connell to win the job. For the second time in 3 years, the guy he wanted to play quarterback for him, the guy he wanted to catch passes from, no longer part of the equation. Again, he felt betrayed by the coaching staff, and then comes out after the debacle against Carolina and seeing that maybe this isn't the situation I need to be in, says, hey, I would prefer if you guys trade me away.
Yeah. He's trying to
All right.
solidify that first ballot status. And I don't think he believes he can do it with Gardner Minshew.
So now we're here. Then he injures his hamstring at the end of a Thursday practice. He's missed the last 2 games because of it. It's not that he is he legitimately got hurt.
Okay.
If he was gonna gripe about it and miss practice because of a quote unquote injury, it would have happened before why even go out and practice? Why fake an injury, leave the practice early? Like Antonio Pierce has said, he's legitimately hurt. He's gonna be back on the field as soon as he is ready to, unless they have worked out a deal before then. So that's the Davante Adams story and where we're at right now. He wants out of town, and the Raiders are totally amenable to that. I'm amenable to that too. Tennessee, give us your 2nd round pick and Treylon Burks, and we're square. You can have Davante Adams, because how funny would it be for Will Levis to have Davante Adams, Calvin Ridley, and DeAndre Hopkins and still be Will Levis?
And still become a meme every week?
That would be the funniest thing ever. And then on the other hand, we get a certified ex-receiver who landed in the worst possible situation he could as a first-round draft pick, and having a quarterback in Aiden O'Connell that can get him the ball. He's the perfect ex-receiver to foil Brock Bowers in the big slot, Jacoby Myers running the slot, and Trey Tucker running wind sprints. You get Treylon Burks running in-breaking routes and posts in the intermediate, and that is his wheelhouse. We watched him destroy Alabama doing just that, running comebacks, running curls. He can do all of that. He just hasn't been given a chance. He's had bad quarterbacks, bad offensive coordinators, terrible situation, bad injuries, and it just hasn't worked out. So give him a change of scenery.
It's been a series of unfortunate events for him for sure.
Absolutely.
It's his rookie year, he just hit a stride. I just let me get this out because it makes me so sad. Like, he was just hitting his stride. I mean, the first week he gets 6 targets, and it's kind of quiet and kind of slow because our offense is broken, quite literally broken.
And when you say hit his stride, he had just recovered from his hamstring injury that he suffered in the preseason of his rookie year.
Yes. And so we're coming out, and it's the Eagles game, and it's A.J. Brown revenge time. And it's Treylon obviously took that personally, hey, I'm going to show that this is not, this wasn't an awful trade, even though, it still was an awful trade because A.J. Brown is one of my favorite players of all time. But he comes out, catches a contested catch touchdown, and then just gets hit like it's 1997. And Michael Irvin got hit in the old Philadelphia Coliseum or whatever it was, and, is out with a concussion. And it just from there,
he got obliterated.
Yes, he got his brain turned into scrambled eggs. It was ugly, and it was that hit had no place in the game, and that just added to the fact that he was, he's considered a bust. And it's man, you can't show me anything that he's done when given opportunity on the football field that says he sucks. He's not. Right. He's not
except play with quarterbacks that don't even look at him.
No, don't look at him.
He is not any of their reads, not just first read, he's just none of their reads, because
it's just hey, we've got to have an 11th player out there, and it's Treylon Burks.
They've been so limited. And you talk about rookie quarterbacks having the field cut in half just to make it easier for them. And whatever half it was the half that Treylon Burks wasn't on. 2023, he's supposed to be he's supposed to elevate to the wide receiver 1 in Tennessee. So I drafted him in the fishbowl. The following Tuesday, they signed DeAndre Hopkins. Then he deals with last year. Will Levis comes in. Will Levis is supposed to ascend this year. Treylon Burks is supposed to be the opposite to DeAndre Hopkins. They go out and they sign Calvin Ridley. Then they go out and they sign Tyler Boyd as well. And Brian Callahan, who Callahan's no. Single-handedly ruined a dynasty that never was, but was in the making and couldn't happen because of Callahan. Anyway, so I don't even like your son either. So then he comes out and says Treylon Burks is going to be great on special teams.
Yeah.
Come on, this is a first-round wide receiver. His career can be resurrected, and what better place than in Las Vegas running the X? But that all leads very emotionally and passionately and roundabout to my question to you: where does Davante land?
Well, I have a list. Allow me to pull my list out just briefly here. So there's certain teams that I just eliminated off the top just because I'm looking down at my my notes here. I think it was like 9 teams, and he's already said that he only wants to play for a quarterback he's played before, so it really should just be 2 teams, right? But I would say it's a 3-way race to me between the Jets, the Saints. The Saints don't have the cap room. Like they're negative cap until 2040. I mean, even though the cap's not real, but let's pretend for this exercise that it is.
Suddenly Derek Carr and Alvin Kamara are playing on restructured contracts.
Yeah, right. And so the Jets, the Saints, and I'm going to go dark horse team here, and I'm going to say the Commanders.
Okay.
So do I have to give one, or can I just give you my top 3?
No, that's good. Explain the Commanders.
So the Commander, you have to have another weapon that you can trust besides Terry McLaurin.
The Luke McCaffrey shade will not stand.
Hey, it's not shade. It's just I'm just saying, Luke can be in a slot. Zach Ertz can be just literally running Jason Witten routes and turning around 4 yards away from Jaden Daniels' face mask. And then you could have 2 excellent wide receivers that you could move around the formation, even though Cliff just lines his X up on the left side of the formation 80% of the time. Well, then you got a viable guy, not De'Ami Brown, on the other side, just doing really cool stuff and making Jaden Daniels the fantasy overall quarterback 1.
Which he already basically is. Yeah, I keep saying the Titans because I want that to happen for both of them so bad. He gets out of town.
You can't do that to me though. Like that, if you can't do that to me, you can't say I get Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, and Davante Adams, and I have to watch them with Will Levis.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No. I don't. I reject what you're. I reject
it's the funniest thing. He likely has caught passes from Jordan Love. I don't see a reunion with Green Bay, but
no. They're notorious for not spending, going out and trading for big free agents, right?
Sure. Yeah, they don't do a lot of that. They didn't pay Josh Jacobs a whole lot, and he was like their big signing. It's hard midseason stuff. It's hard just because salaries are established, hierarchies are established. It's hard to disrupt a team when you have this is our wide receiver 1, 2, 3, and then somebody with the cachet of Davante Adams comes in. There are only a few teams that he would compete with or eclipse their wide receiver 1 and become the man. How do you disrupt it? It would have to be somebody like the Colts, they have some talent, but it's just not coming together.
Right.
Or
he might have an aneurysm if he has to catch the passes from Anthony Richardson, man. Like,
Joe Flacco. But yeah, the leader in the clubhouse is obviously the Jets. I don't think guys that are heavily invested in Garrett Wilson want to see that happen.
I think that would be great for Garrett Wilson, though, to be
I think
honest.
it would be great for Garrett Wilson.
Well, I mean, so I saw this thing on Twitter where they were like, it was like, hey, maybe, just maybe, Garrett Wilson's more of a DJ Moore than he is a Jamar Chase. And it's like, what would DJ Moore do if he had somebody that was drawing coverage against a number 2 corner? Like, I could be. I mean, he could be Randall Cobb to old school Jordy Nelson.
That's what Alan Lazard is for.
Oh goodness. Oh.
By the way, everybody, Alan Lazard is a must start Sunday morning.
How great would it be though? You got Mike Williams, like just in between being hurt and maybe a stint on IR. You got Davante Adams and you got Garrett Wilson. Like, tell me that.
That's a Super Bowl squad right there, especially with Brees Lawn.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the timeshare, the developing timeshare. Yeah,
God,
everybody's talking about what's going on in Tampa, but they're not talking about what's going on in East Rutherford, New Jersey.
Let me just I want to put it out there on the record how angry I am about the Braylon Allen situation, because he was everybody's RB1 for a sec. And then as everybody drifted away, I stayed with them and I said, he's my RB1 of the class, period. And then I came on this show and I said, my prediction is that the Dallas Cowboys take him as the first running back off the board in the 2024 NFL draft. And they didn't do it. And then he goes to the Jets, and I have Breece Hall everywhere. Where do you think it was? Tyler Algier all over again. You think I wanted Braylon? I knew Braylon Allen was coming at some point.
Yeah.
Why does it have to be on Breece Hall's team? Why can't it be on the Cowboys?
Right.
I hate the Cowboys.
It made way too much sense. And I have a theory, and I think the Cowboys passed on the running backs in this class because they're going to make an aggressive play in the 2025 draft that is much deeper with, like, I feel like day 1, early day 2 talent.
Well, if they draft Jaden Ott, I am going to fill a sink for Jerry Jones.
I mean, he is. I was thinking more along the lines of Ashton Genty, but
Well, yeah, yeah. But why would they take the best one? They're going to pass and take the third best one.
Yeah. Well, or take the first, like the third best one in reverse order when you could have taken Jerry.
Because Jerry's smarter. He's the smartest guy in the room.
Always.
So he's going to outsmart. He's the Arthur Smith of owners.
Yeah.
He's going to outsmart you with his brain, and his brain is going to pass on Braylon Allen so that he can pass on Ashton Genty because he's smarter than you are. All right. Chig and Traylon are in the same boat. Everybody loves like the athletic ability of Chig Okonkwo, and he just gets nothing. And
we don't have a quarterback that can get him the ball, man.
For three years. Like,
yeah.
it's a sad state of affairs. You brought up somebody that went to your high school. I went to high school with a former Tennessee Titan. And his name is Jason Fisk. He was a defensive tackle on the Super Bowl team.
Yep.
And I'm friends with his brother, play softball with his brother. I grew up with his younger brothers, and watched his son Tucker ascend to practice squad fullback on the Los Angeles Chargers after a stint as the backup tight end on the Atlanta Falcons last year. I was kind of absent-mindedly like scrolling on my phone, doing something while I had Sunday Ticket on, and then I hear and that pass Tucker Fisk, and I was like, he got a pass. I was so proud of him.
That's awesome.
Anyway, yeah, Jason is a friend of the show. And he went to my high school.
That's awesome.
Anyway, all right, that's gonna do it for the week. We're a little bit over. I try and keep the show to about half an hour. But,
Dude, I can run my mouth about football for as long as
yeah,
So-
and this, so to be perfectly like frank and out in the open with everybody, just because we're a family, right? This Player Profiler News is a derivative of Player Profiler, and the news desk is a whole bunch of up and comers, a lot of guys with passion that are doing this because they love it and are working really hard at it. And so you've seen guys like me and Greinberg, and we get shows and stuff like that. And we had a staff meeting the other day, and Chev expressed he wants to get his feet wet too. And I was like, I got a show Friday, I'll bring him on, and I feel like the chemistry between us has been good, and I want to say, without talking to Chev about it after the show, it's probably likely he's going to be back on the show with me. So live in front of everybody, Chev, would you be my Friday co-host?
I live in front of everybody. I will accept.
He said yes. All right. Just a couple of boys that didn't grow up in Arkansas that eventually moved to Arkansas at some point, talking football.
Talking ball.
Yes. All right. So everybody go to crap, my script is gone. Follow us on all the things. Where can they find you, Chev?
You can find me on X at either 2 guys 1 pod. That's the word 2 guys 1, the word 1 pod FF on X, or at my handle at Chev90. And that's across all the socials. I think I'm Chev Dog Millionaire on Instagram, but just follow the page 2 guys 1 pod FF on Instagram.
Chev Dog Millionaire is pretty damn good. And I am at Big Boned FFB. That's BIGBONEDED FF as in Frank, B as in boy, on the tweet machine. But it's so much more fun to type Jameer Biggs into the chat and find me that way. I will be on Dynasty Stock Market on Tuesday with Alex, and then on the Player Profiler main channel Thursday night for the Thursday night tailgate with my boy Mike Lindbergh and our producer Schultze. Find us all over the place, and have a great week, you guys. Enjoy watching the games. I sure am going to enjoy getting up at 6 a.m. so that I can do that.
Shout out to all the fantasy widows.
Yeah, shout out Fantasy Widows. We're sorry, but we're not that sorry. And everybody else, have a great week. I will talk to you again, Chev, and we'll go ahead and set something up. Enjoy your weekend.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.